So hi, my name is Lindsay, and this video is really for anybody who maybe after college went abroad to teach abroad or work abroad, and maybe you've been abroad maybe 6 months to a year or more, several years, and now you kind of find yourself in the position that you're ready to come home, or you've recently transitioned home and you're just kind of not sure what next direction to take or where to start. So in this video, I'm going to go over several tips to kind of help you get back on your feet and to make a plan and just trying to find the new direction that you want to go in. So if you find yourself in that situation, this video is for you. So hi, my name is Lindsay, and on my channel I make videos about living and teaching abroad in Spain, and I also cover career and life topics in general. So if you're interested in any of those topics, please feel free to subscribe to my channel, and if you find this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and share it with a friend. So let's get into the video. So as I mentioned, this video is really for people who are transitioning home or coming back home after maybe living abroad, teaching abroad, or studying abroad. So one of the first things I want to let you all know is that there are actually conferences for people who have lived or studied abroad and returning home. So I'm going to put a link below to the website that shows you different conferences around the United States, and I think Canada as well. I'm not exactly sure, I have to double check. But on the link below, you're going to have to scroll down on the web page, and then you'll see where it says like re-entry conferences or something like that. So you can check out those conferences. I think they're usually around like the fall time. I'm not exactly sure, but check those out. You might be interested in those. They're really going to help you take the experience that you gained abroad and put it on a resume and show you how those skills transfer to a new career or a growing career. All right, so my tip number one is don't rush into anything when you get back home, and especially anything that would incur debt, such as a master's program or going to law school or going to med school. I mean, I had a lot of friends, and even myself, who they spent a lot of money and they didn't end up finishing because they're like, actually, I changed my mind. This really isn't for me. So what I would recommend doing, and honestly, you just kind of have to know yourself and what's best for yourself. If you've really had your like goal to go to law school or med school or get an MBA, and you just know that's really what you want to do and you already have the job picked out and where you want to live, then it sounds like you've got a great plan. But if you're really not sure, I wouldn't rush into anything when I get home, especially something that incurs debt. You want to avoid debt if at all possible. And what I would recommend doing is possibly make a list of like 3 to 5 people that you know really enjoy their career, or maybe they've lived abroad and they've come home and now that they're doing something they really enjoy. So I would just say like make a list and then like meet up with these people, obviously at different times, you know, take them out for coffee or something and just ask them, like get information, get some wisdom from them on like pursuing different careers or what would make sense for you. What do they like about that career? Does it make enough money? Can you live off of that? Do you live a good lifestyle? These are things to take into consideration when you're delving into a new career or like kind of starting over. I mean, for me, for example, I did kind of make a mistake when I moved home one time. I instantly went after this master's, but I didn't really research other programs, and my program was relatively expensive for what kind of job I would get afterwards. And even this is almost 6, 7, 8 years later, but I'm still paying debt on it. And it was a new program. It wasn't well organized. There was a lot of problems, and I didn't really feel like I got that much out of it. And so that was my mistake for like rushing right away into this program within like a month of returning home. So really research the programs or research a career that you are interested in going into. Does the career make enough money to live the lifestyle that you would like to live? Another thing is, like, I'm a teacher and now I live in Miami, and an average teacher salary might be somewhere between $40,000 to $45,000 starting out. If you have a master's or whatever, you know, maybe a little more. But the average salary needed to live a comfortable lifestyle in Miami is $80,000. So there is like a bit of struggle there. So take that into consideration. Where do you want to live? How much money you want to make to live that lifestyle? You may have like a passionate career for social work, but if it's going to leave you struggling, maybe if you're living in a really expensive city, is that a smart choice? So just think about these things and like don't rush into anything, especially taking on a master's, which might incur extra debt if you aren't 100% sure. Maybe take the first 6 months to just kind of try out a job. If you want to be a teacher, maybe substitute or like go to a daycare. Do you really enjoy working with kids all the time? Or if you're interested in going to med school, maybe work in a medical environment or in a doctor's office. Can you see yourself doing that for the next 5 to 10 to 20 years? These are some ideas to take into consideration before you like jump into any certain career. Another thing to think about is when you're thinking about the careers, like how much does an apartment cost? How much is insurance, a car, all these different payments? Like kind of come up with a mini budget of how much money you would need to make to pay your monthly bills, and then how much you can save and how much you can spend on, food, gas, clothes, etc. And maybe it's $3,000, maybe it's $5,000. It's different for each city. But just find this information out. This is something that I never even thought to do. And in college, I spent loads of money on college, but they never told me to sit down and do this. Maybe your school did, and that's amazing. But just think about these things when you are thinking about what career to pursue as well. So that's just an extra thought. All right, so tip number 2 is to get financially savvy or whatever. Just get some financial knowledge. And what I mean by that is when I went to school, I got a degree in Spanish and another degree in English, but nobody told me what to do with the money that I was making after I got those degrees. And honestly, I've had a roller coaster of ups and downs with my financial situation and with my master's and with student loans. We all know that student loans are a huge problem right now in the United States. Trillions of dollars of student loan debt money is being incurred by thousands of students. And it irritates me to note in that colleges these days will allow students to incur so much student loan debt, but fail to give them financial information on how to use their money or to make wise financial decisions with the money that they make from the degree that they earn from that school or that college or the university. Unless you majored in finance or some related field, most likely you didn't really take any financial courses in college, and it really hasn't occurred to you. You're like, okay, I'm just going to go out there, get my degree, get my job, and everything will just work out, and I'll start making lots of money, and I'll end up rich someday. It honestly doesn't really work out that easy. So my advice to you is if you didn't take financial courses in college, or maybe you're not really sure how to budget or how much money you need to make to survive and to save and to get ahead eventually in life, there's plenty of books out there that are going to teach you the same thing. You don't have to go back to school, thank God. I'm going to put a link to some books below that are pretty popular, just kind of books to give you some financial wisdom. And I'm telling you, if you can get this in your 20s and really start to focus on just gaining knowledge in that area, everybody needs this, whether you're a teacher, a doctor, a lawyer, a stay-at-home mom. Everyone can use more financial wisdom. So if there's one thing you do with your time right now, coming home from living abroad, it's just study up on, finances and money. Spending time learning how to manage your finances is time well spent and time you will never regret. And if you plan on getting married one day, one of the biggest things that couples tend to fight about and argue about and get divorced over is finances. Learn how to handle your money. Do not splurge on things you cannot afford. Do not incur unnecessary consumer debt. Just right now, just please don't incur any extra debt coming home. That's my one thing I wish I hadn't done, and it has made me a slave to prevent me from moving on and doing other things in life or pursuing other opportunities because of debt. So whatever you do, get financial wisdom and avoid debt. So check out the links below for some books on giving you more financial knowledge, all right? All right, so tip number 3, coping on the hard days when you really miss your life abroad. So when you're really going through reverse culture shocks, which usually happens if you have a positive experience abroad, if you have a negative experience abroad, you usually tend to adapt faster and to your return home. But if you have a positive experience abroad, coming back home, you can start to rethink, oh, why did I do this? What was I thinking? I should have stayed there. But on these hard days of reverse culture shock, or just reverse culture shock, just remember your why. Why did you want to come home? Was it to pursue a new career? Was it to pursue that old relationship of that person you've been talking to, and maybe now this is the time for you to kind of settle down and pursue that? Maybe it's to pursue a new degree. Think about your why on those hard days. So maybe write down your why in your phone and just read it over and over again, or just have it there so you can look at it when you're going through a tough time. And just remember that even though you might follow thousands of travel bloggers on Instagram or social media, most people aren't out traveling 24/7. And usually the people that you see out there who are traveling probably work kicking butt in an office for years to save up all that money to get out there and do what they're doing. So maybe this is a time in your life, and everyone is in a different season of life. So maybe, you had your time abroad and it was an awesome experience, but now maybe you're coming home to really work hard and make more money and save up for something you really want, like a car, an apartment, maybe another trip abroad. So just remember that why on those hard days where you feel really weak and you're screw it, I want to go back abroad or something. So if you're like needing to work and take care of responsibilities at home, maybe just like unfollow those accounts that are just kind of distracting you or like giving you this like wanderlust, and maybe then follow accounts that are like giving you advice or success tips in your field or career of interest. Or just give up social media for a while in general and just start hanging out with your friends and just start making or creating new relationships or deepening old friendships with people that are really important in your life. This is also something you'll never regret doing and you'll find really rewarding, especially on the tough days. Reach out to someone that you haven't talked to in a while and just reconnect and find out what's going on in their lives, and it will really lift your mood. All right, so tip number 4. Remember that this return home doesn't have to be permanent. It could just be like a break where you just go home and you work, you visit your family, and you just kind of regroup and plan that next move abroad or that next trip abroad. That during this time you can really develop a great plan, a successful plan to be successful on your relaunch. The second time I moved abroad to Spain, I kind of overlooked this step and I was like, oh, I don't really need to save this much money, or I don't really need to sell that, or like plan ahead, or I just didn't do a really great job of developing a plan for moving abroad the second time. And that was one of the reasons why it didn't work out. I just didn't really know how much money it was going to take to like pay off things that I hadn't paid off yet when I moved abroad, and I just hadn't prepared for taking care of all my responsibilities. And if I had just taken a little bit more time, my second trip abroad probably would have been a lot more successful than it was. So just maybe use this time at home to like gain experience and just develop a better plan if you want to move back abroad and you don't see yourself living at home permanently. All right, so tip number 5. And for my last tip, this is kind of obvious, but it's something that sometimes we plan on doing but we don't actually follow through with. But it's just like get involved with something, and something that you could do every single week, whether it's a sports team or like some social club, just something that you can get involved with every week. Maybe it's with church or with like a career group or a meetup group, just something that you can do every week to socialize and be intentional about socializing. When I came home the first time, like I would just stay at home for like a month. Like I'm like, oh, I don't feel like driving to see my friends 20 minutes. I was really lazy and I was really unhappy. And I didn't make that intentional effort to actually go out there and meet people. And I kind of had a negative attitude. I'm like, oh, you know what? They haven't lived abroad. They don't know what it's like. You gotta throw those attitudes out the window and just realize that we can learn from everybody. We don't have to surround ourselves with people constantly living a nomadic lifestyle. We can learn from people who are, staying in one place. Maybe they've gotten really in deep in their career and they could teach us something. We can learn from anybody, but just be intentional about socializing. The more you're socializing, a lot of times, you have to socialize every single night, but maybe like a few times a week, once or twice a week. Just get out there and meet people, build relationships. That's what life's all about. One thing I did was make a list. I made a list before I came home of like top 10 things I want to do when I go home. Eat at this restaurant, go shop at this mall, I want to go visit this friend, or take a road trip to this place. Like having that top 10 list for me, like gave me like these little mini goals of things I got excited about when I moved home. And it kind of like, got my mind off of like what I was leaving behind and like getting ready to explore something new. Because a lot of times people who like to travel and live abroad, like one of the things we have in common with our personalities is like exploring new areas or exploring different places. And sometimes we think we have to go to a faraway land to do that. But in reality, sometimes there's a lot of cool things in our own town or in a nearby city that we haven't explored. And I used to be like, oh, if it's not in Europe, I don't care. But no, like now I'm like visiting different states and like, actually like trying new foods or like just doing different things that I never thought I would do. And it's funny how I surprised myself. Like in the past I wasn't interested in doing something, but now I'm like, oh, I definitely want to check that out. So just explore new interests when you come home. Like open up your mind to just like trying and learning new things, talking to different people. Anything is really possible. There's so many opportunities out there. Just like look forward to all those new experiences you're gonna have. And those are my basic top 5 tips, I guess, for moving home, transitioning home, even if it's just for a little while, in preparation for another exciting adventure in the future. But anyway, if you have any other tips, please leave them in the comments below. And if you found this video helpful, like I said, please give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, and thanks so much for watching.